Thank y'all for showing up. So I don't know if you guys have done the calculus, including this week and next week. There's 2 weeks before winter break. So including today's classes, you guys have 4 classes. Whoops, you can't see me. How strange. 1 second. Well, well, how interesting. You guys can't see me. I have a technical glitch. Give me a second. Okay, I'll just live with this camera. This is not my favorite, but I'll live with this camera. So, sorry about that. As I was saying, including today's classes, you got 4 classes before winter break. And then when we get back from winter break, there's about 4 weeks of classes before the end of the semester. And 4 weeks of classes means 8 classes. So altogether, including today's classes, you got 12 classes left in this semester, which is to say it's going to go really fast, I'm guessing. So anyway, hold on tight to your seat. So today, I'm going to show you, I want you guys to go through a list. And this list is going to be something that we're going to cycle back to after the break. But similar to last class where I had you guys decide whether something is related to federalism, is a local or state issue or it's a federal government issue. I'm going to show you a list, that was come up by myself and students in previous government classes. And this is the list. And there are 25 concerns here, 25 issues, 25 things that people might feel so moved to get involved to either be politically active or join a group that advocates or works on these issues. So if you have a social conscience, one of these things might actually speak to you. So there's 25 different issues, and we're going to cycle back to this list, as I said, after the break, because I'm going to have you guys do research into groups that deal with these different issues. And this is not an all-inclusive list. There's concerns here that I'm sure are not on the list. In fact, you might come up with one. But take a look at them and think about how you have heard about these issues. Think about who you might have heard about that has something to deal with these. Like you might be familiar that Beaverton, the school district, has a clothing closet to assist people with clothing, especially in the winter months. You might have heard about the Beaverton Arts Commission, deals with an art organization in your area. You may have, if you have a parent or a friend who's super into healthy local foods, you might have heard of the Localvore movement, right? But what I want you guys to do is to take about 15 minutes. And first of all, you can find this list. I should show you how to do that. I'll show you where to find this list. It is, oh, whoops, I have to set it up first. Sorry, my bad. Here we go. So where to find this list? This is in my Canvas page in the modules, all the way at the bottom, bottom. Federalism, right here. And there's the questions that we asked last class, but scroll down and here are those 25 issues. And there is the document that I had both in, this is a Word document and there's a PDF. So whichever works best for you. But I want you to look at this list, and then I want you to take about 15 minutes and decide, is it, if you were to work on this issue, or if you were to advocate for this issue, would you be advocating with somebody at the federal level? In other words, would you go to Suzanne Bonamici's office, your federal representative, or maybe our senators to talk about this? Or would you go to your state representatives to talk about this, who would deal with it in Salem? Or would you go maybe to the Washington County Commissioners, or to the Beaverton City Council, or to Metro councilors? In other words, what level of government, this is a federalist question, a federalism question, what level of government, local or state or federal, deals with this issue? Okay, does that make sense? Okay, so it is 8:37, and I'm going to boop, 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 set a timer. Okay, so, oops, stop. So I'm going to set time for 15 minutes, and I want you guys to think it through, and then I'll buzz you all back. And then we're going to go through it together. This is not a test. You're not going to be graded on this, but I want you to think this through, because I want you to see at how this stuff filters through the political process and what level you think it is most effectively dealt with at. Okay, so go. Time's up. Time's up. All right. All right. All right. All right. So I'm hoping you finished this, but if you didn't, don't sweat it. We're going to go over it right now. And I have an ulterior motive for all this, of course. But so we're going to go over this baby. And I'm going to put X's into this over here, say whether I think this is federal, state, or local. And notice in here, it's what does each level of government do? If there's dollar signs, and there are always dollar signs, that means they provide funds, provide legal guidelines and programs. Federal obviously is national federal programs. State is programs across the state. And cities and counties are very local programs. And you do not need to turn them in, but hang on to them and refer to them because I'm going to ask you guys what you said for these. So I want to know how you answered them. So you're going to either have to put it in the chat, which I can see, or shout it out. So if your main interest is in environmental issues, environmental concerns, do you appeal to your state representatives, your federal representatives, or your local representatives? Which one do you go to? Or it could be all three. So federal comes in the text. Lots of guys think federal. Yes, you would be right.
I think you can do state too.
You would be right. It is also the state, and sometimes it is even the local. You know, if it has to do with Portland's sewage overflow, that's a state and a local thing. But state and federal are the big ones for this. So if your concern has to do with housing and houselessness or homelessness, federal, state, or local. State and local, you guys say, and that would pretty much be right. Those are pretty much state and local issues. There is housing and human affairs cabinet level office in the executive branch of the federal government, but they don't really get things enacted. They offer money and they offer some guidelines, but the people who really do, where the rubber meets the road is in the state level and the local level. How about drug treatment and community health? And there's a little cheat in there, and even in the name. Okay, so local, state, local, yes. A lot of it, actually, there is some state responsibility, but for this, I'm gonna put 2 X's in here, double X, because a lot of that really does fall on the local government, especially the county government. So very much, that's close to home. How about mental health treatment? Is that federal, state, or local? Local. Yeah, you betcha. I'll do the same thing for here. There's some state responsibility, but really the big burden of that. So what the state might provide, especially, is some money in the budgets to help the counties do this, but those are very much county kind of things. How about veterans assistance? For people that have served in the military, veterans assistance could be psychological, could be health benefits. What do you think? Mostly veterans get federal because the Army is a federal thing. And the Veterans Administration hospitals are federally administered, even though they're hospitals located in communities. That's mostly a federal issue. How about police accountability? That's been in the news just a little bit lately. What do you think? Police accountability. Local, state, local, federal. Yep. Police accountability only where federal police are here. So like ICE and Border Patrol, that would be the federal, but really it's a state issue and really it's a local issue. It's a city issue. You know, Portland Police, Beaverton Police, that's for accountability, you look to those cities. Washington County Sheriff's Office, that's Washington County. So it's really the bulk of this. There is a tiny little bit because there are federal officers, but the majority of this is state and very much local issues. Yeah, your city councilor, your county commissioners. Youth and family issues. What you think? Youth and family issues. Again, state and go away and local, especially local. All right, workers' rights. Workers' rights to organize, to go on strike, that kind of stuff. Pretty much, although there's some at the federal level and at the state level, and a little bit at the local level even, but the biggest one would here be the state for workers' rights because it's within that state. How about racial justice? Any more votes? Racial justice. All three? Yes, all three. There are federal laws, there are state laws, there are local laws that can all deal with racial justice. How about, and you notice that some of these, like 9, 10, and 11, are, you know, if those are Venn diagrams, there's a lot of overlap here. Okay. So how about gender equality? Federal, state, local. Yep, you would be talking all three. Okay. How about LGBTQ rights? Okay, saying all three. To a certain degree, yes, because it was the Supreme Court that authorized, that said the Constitution doesn't prevent gay marriage, and therefore gay marriage became legal across the land. But states were the ones that got that ball rolling to start with, and there was a lot of local pressure. So it is all three. Civil liberties concerns, which of course doubles back to racial justice, but it also has to do with gender equality. Civil liberties is a big umbrella. And yep, you're seeing a trend line here. Okay, how about low income assistance? Okay, so it is primarily state. I will put in low income assistance because if you've ever gotten food stamps, food assistance, that's a federal program, but it largely, a lot of the stuff is state and local. And in fact, for the next one, food assistance, what would you guys say for that? In fact, I'm going to take this off of here because that's really not, no, I'll leave that there. Yeah, food assistance. I'm going to say this again because of the food stamp program. And there are some state programs, but yes, mostly local. And in fact, you know, your local food pantry is supplied, it's not even government assistance, it's people donating to the food bank and such. So that gets a lot of voluntary assistance. How about a clothing closet? You bet. That's very local. Employment training and assistance. So if you're in a job that has been downsized, or maybe your job is, you know, is an old fashioned job and it's getting replaced by newer technology, you need new training. So your answers are local. There is some federal money for this, but mostly it is state and local. So that would be something that PCC, for instance, Portland Community College, would carry out. PCC, of course, being a government entity. Transportation and mobility issues. What do you think? Federal, state, local? State, state and local, all three. It is all three, actually, because transportation, you know, there are streets in front of your house. Some of those are paved by the city or by the county. Going right downtown through Beaverton are two state highways, Canyon Road and Beaverton Hillsdale Highway. That's highways 10 and 8. Those are state highways, and that's maintained by the Oregon Department of Transportation. But if you drive on I-5, there's a lot of federal money involved in that. And if the max ever does get down to Tualatin, there will be a lot of federal money that went into helping that. So it is all three, but the biggest share of that, honestly, is state and local. So Metro, which is local, has a huge amount of planning for transportation and mobility in our region. How about business groups? Legislation, if you're involved in a business group and you want to change some laws around business, where are you going to go? This would be all three. Yes, of course it would. So interstate business, inside the state business, local business. In Beaverton, there's an office that if you're going to open up, you want to open up a small business, there's an office that you can go to, and somebody will hopefully, well, they used to shake your hand in the pre-COVID days and try to help you through all the permitting processes and to help to grease the skids a little bit, make it easier for you. How about arts organizations? There is, Kate, yes, there is a national endowment for the arts, but I'm going to actually make that a small X because it's a small input. State funding for that and local funding. So if you guys are looking for grants and such, you know, the Regional Arts and Culture Council is the one for our region. And that is primarily a local organization and locally funded. If your issue is senior citizens, you want to advocate for better care for senior citizens. That would be, yes, local. That's a state and a local issue, primarily. Prisoner advocacy. Prisoner advocacy. Federal, state, and federal. Yep, that would be. But especially in this one, especially the state level, that you would deal with that. How about local food supply advocacy? Yep, it's kind of in the name, isn't it? Although I will say, Oregon has facilitated this. I'm going to put double X because you guys go to, you know, if you go to farmers markets, that's totally something that's been organized in the local community. But the state, through Oregon's land use laws, if you guys, any of you guys have my urban design class, which is happening next semester, you'll learn all about the urban growth boundary. And the urban growth boundary is something that every Oregon city has around it. It's what caused us to create Metro. And the urban growth boundary around our metropolitan area protects the farmland around our metropolitan area. And the logic behind that is that if transportation became difficult, you know, and that head of lettuce that comes from California isn't getting up here, we better have our own local farmers growing local food. Otherwise, we go hungry. How about education? How about education? You're all right. There is a Department of Education, and they do pass laws which do come down to the state level. And the state is the one that funds every single school district in the state of Oregon. And it's the local community, of course, that has to make it all happen. So, how about net neutrality? And that has to do with the internet and whether or not Comcast must share its wires and its fiber optics with everybody without bias, or whether Comcast gets to say, you know, our affiliates get to go through at 100% of the speed, but if you're a competitor to us, we're going to choke you down a little bit. So net neutrality, what do you guys think? Federal, 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 and that would be federal. That is federal. So, gun rights, federal, state, local. Yep, it is mostly federal and state, a tiny bit of local, but mostly, I'm going to put a small X there. Mostly that's federal and state. All right, so here is this list right here. And what I want you guys to see is that although the federal government has a major role in our life, what I really want you to see in here is where are the most X's?
In local.
In the local and the state. Yep. And I wanted you to see that. So I wanted a graphic that you guys could see, because regardless of what you think about the president, whichever president it is, and you know, you guys are young, so you're going to see quite a succession. You're going to see several decades of presidents. Hopefully, assuming you all live to be ripe old people, and your smooth young faces turn into wrinkled prunes. You're going to see a lot of presidents, but consistently, the most important votes that you guys will cast and the most important advocacy that you guys might choose to do is going to be at the state and the local level. So, which is why voting and participating is important, because as you can see on that list, the things that are going to affect you personally the most take place at the state and the local level. And that is where you have the most influence. You know, at the federal level, you're one of 240 million people. But in the state of Oregon, now you're one of like 5 million. But how you deal with your state representative, you know, you could look up who your state senator is, who your state representative is, and you could go to their office, and you are then a constituent. And you could voice your concerns, and you can write them letters, and you can get neighbors to do the same, and you can have actual influence. And at the local level, you know, who is your county commissioner? Who is your city councilor? And again, you can visit them. You can have influence with those people, especially if you come at them in a thoughtful, programmatic kind of way. Like, I have a concern. This is what I would like to see done about it. You will find they listen. So the thing that is my biggest worry, and I hear this a lot, is it is good to be skeptical. It is bad to be cynical. Cynicism is just a way to sort of turn things off. Like, it's all rigged. It doesn't matter. Cynicism is removing yourself from the process and removing whatever influence you might have on that process. Cynicism says it doesn't matter, whereas actually, yes, it very much does. Skepticism is great. Skepticism means you ask questions, means you need to see evidence, you know, show me. So skepticism, I would encourage all of you guys to have a healthy level of skepticism. That just asks questions. Cynicism shuts down the conversation, right? So I wanted you to see that. So it's in a graphic way. As I mentioned, we are going to cycle back to this list. It's going to be a lot of what you do in the month of January. You are going to be looking up different agencies and organizations that deal with those particular issues that I listed. And if you have an interest in a certain cause that's not on that list, I welcome it. But that's after the break. What we're going to do over the next two classes is I'm going to introduce you to the concept of civil disobedience, which was written by Henry David Thoreau. Actually, it was a series of speeches that was compiled into a book. Pardon me. And actually, let me just prepare you for this, but I have to bring up something. Give me 1 second here. Okay. I'm going to share with you just some that sort of prepare you for this. These are quotes by people about civil disobedience. Here's a little quote from Aristotle saying, "It's not always the same thing to be a good man and a good citizen, depending on the situation." And this is from civil disobedience. So we are going to read this part. It says, "If a law is of such a nature that it requires you to be the agent of injustice to another, then I say, break the law. Let your life be a counter friction to stop the machine. What I have to do is to see at any rate that I do not lend myself to the wrong which I condemn." So if a law requires you to commit injustice on another, break the law, says Thoreau. And this is from Mahatma Gandhi, who knew Thoreau quite well. Thoreau was a great writer, philosopher, poet, and withal a most practical man. That is, he taught nothing he was not prepared to practice in himself. He was one of the greatest and most moral men America has produced. At the time of the abolition of slavery movement, he wrote his famous essay on the duty of civil disobedience. And that is actually the title of it. He went to jail for the sake of his principles and suffering humanity. His essay has, therefore, been sanctified by suffering. Moreover, it is written for all time. Its incisive logic is unanswerable. And Gandhi cited Thoreau's writing as a part of his understanding for passive resistance, peaceful resistance. And as you'll find out, there's nothing passive about passive resistance. And Martin Luther King said, "I became convinced that non-cooperation with evil is as much a moral obligation as is cooperation with good." Non-cooperation with evil is as much a moral obligation as is cooperation with good. And lastly, Mahatma Gandhi again, "An unjust law is itself a species of violence. Arrest for its breach," in other words, being arrested for breaking an unjust law, "is more so, is more violence. Now the law of nonviolence says that violence should be resisted, not by counter-violence, but by nonviolence. This I do by breaking the law and by peacefully submitting to arrest and imprisonment," which might be sound a little shocking, but we're going to investigate that. We're going to look into that. So Thoreau's, the part that I'm going to share with you, it's written in 1848. So there's the language issue again. But we're going to go through it, and I'm going to make sure you have your own copy, and I want you to annotate it so you understand it. But we're going to go through this because a part of government and a part of a citizen role in our government is you have the right to protest. So those people who are out on the streets all summer long, you don't necessarily have the right to smash a window, but you do have the right to protest, and you do have the right to get into the street and bang things together and make noise and call for change. And it's a time-honored tradition in America. In fact, all of the most positive things that have happened in the United States legally have happened because people protested and consistently protested and didn't stop until things changed. So I want you to familiarize yourself. I want you to be familiar with this concept, with the ideas behind it, and how it's been practiced. Okay, so that's what we've got coming up. But today, you have 20 minutes left in this class, but I'm done. So do you guys have any questions? Any reason why I should stay on for 20 more minutes? Anybody insisting that I stay with you for 20 more minutes? Don't go. No, I didn't think so. All right, so I will see you guys on Friday. Get some good night's sleep, get outside, take long, healthy walks, do some deep breathing, and stay safe. I'll see you guys in 3 days, okay?
Thank you, Mr. Cashel.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.